Hello, hi, hello out there. The webcam's being funny. How is everybody? Give people a few minutes to filter in because this is a tutorial stream. Just make sure people know that it is happening. Okay. How is everyone today? Okay, so I wanted to show you guys a little bit about blocking, which is something that is kind of important, but doesn't show up in a lot of tutorials or any kind of resources ever, I've noticed, which is really weird. Like, a lot of people just kind of assume that anybody who cross stitches or embroiders or does, any non-yarn craft already knows how to do this. There are tons of tutorials out there for knitting and crochet, but it's a little bit different when you want to do it this way because you don't necessarily want certain aspects to happen. A lot of times when you're blocking with knit or crochet, you're using wool, and you kind of want the wool, sometimes you want it to felt a little bit, not always. But what blocking basically is it's making sure that your piece sits very flat, very smooth, and holds its shape. And sometimes with embroidery, especially if it's a piece that you've had to wash or a piece that you've been working on for a really long time, the edges are going to be very distorted and wibbly, and I don't think I have any pieces nearby that I can grab really quickly to show you what I mean by that. So we're going to just very quickly block something that I finished last night, and I have it right here in this towel. And what you want to do is you want to wash it first with cold water, a light soap. Unless it's really grimy, you don't even really need the soap. Because I had mine on the scroll frame the entire time and wasn't really touching it. I just kind of gave it a nice little rinse in cold water. And then I put it in this towel and I rolled it up to get most of the moisture out. And the towel itself is pretty damp. It's been sitting here for about a half hour. And I would show you how to do that process, but I can't live stream in my bathroom. There's just not enough room, so I wouldn't be able to move that over. So I have it here, and you just want to kind of roll it up. And I like to let it sit for a little bit. And let's go ahead and switch the cameras so that you can see what I'm doing here. And I have it in here, and you can see that it is on the dyed fabric, and it's very wrinkly from being rolled up. That's fine. And I apologize for the weird color on the camera. It's having issues. And what we need to block is you need your piece, and you can see it is very terribly wrinkly. That's not nice. You also want something to put it on. Half the time I'll use cardboard. I actually bought these things so I could do the tutorial and show you guys with a nice background. And you want some stainless steel pins. I have them in many sizes that I will never do a project big enough that I will use all of them, but there we go. So what we do is we kind of have our piece here, and this is especially useful for projects that you don't want to iron because you're worried about reactivating some dye. And using the dyed fabric here is a good example of one of those projects because the iron, when you apply heat, can reactivate the dye and it could bleed, and we especially don't want it to bleed into the white bits on his face or into the yellow. So we're going to just kind of, first I like to use my hands and just try to stretch it out and make sure that it's all even and nice. And you can see where, especially on the door, I was having some really weird tension issues. And the door is very wibbly. That's what I am most concerned with. So I really want to try to get that flattened out and straight. And when that's about as flat as I'm going to get it without being able to apply heat, we're going to take our first pin, and I'm not too concerned about the wrinkles that are along the outside because this is going to go into a hoop. My biggest concern is the door. So I'm just going to take my little pin here, and just about right here seems good. Push it right through the fabric and into my foam tile here. And these tiles are pretty cheap. I got 9 of them. I think about $12 on Amazon, which is, again, more than I will ever need. So we're going to take that and try to pull the entire thing, not tight, but just kind of so that it will lay flat. And you can do that by just running your entire hand over it like that. And then we're going to put the pin on this side, right here. We'll do the same thing down here, just kind of try to get it as flat as possible. I like to put the pins in at an angle. It keeps the fabric from slipping around too much. And then we'll just do this and put that in there. And it still kind of needs some help. The door is having a lot of tension issues, so I'm just going to keep putting pins around the whole thing, flattening it out with my hand as I go. And the pins go in at kind of like a 45-degree angle. Oops. It's moving around. And we'll just kind of drop a pin in there. Come on, pin. Drop the pin in right about there. And we'll do one more. About right here. There we go. And the edges over here will still be quite wrinkly. That doesn't bother me. That does not bother me at all because of the way I plan on framing this. It's going to go into a hoop, and it still has a few little issues there that I can just slowly work on teasing out by stretching the edges and putting pins in as I need them. So about right here. And I'm putting them farther away just to keep this tension a little bit more even. This is mostly just to pull on that area right there, and I kind of want to do that up top as well. So right here, yeah. And I'm just doing this until the entire project sits flat. And there's really no kind of science to it. You're just going to go and put them in until everything looks good. There we go. That's kind of taking care of it, I think. Yeah, and the stitching is nice and even. The rows are nice and straight. That's what we're really focused on right there. And now we have it all set up. And at this point, we're just going to kind of let it do its thing. We're going to let it dry overnight. It's like noon now, so it will actually probably be ready to be framed by tonight, depending on how warm it gets in here. It's pretty cold today. It was really hot yesterday. Now it's pretty cold. Welcome to the Pacific Northwest. But what this does is, without using any kind of heat or any kind of agitation now, as the fabric dries, it will dry in this position. The fabric will kind of, it shouldn't shrink necessarily, but the way that it's sitting will just kind of help it dry flat. It's kind of the same principle as if you take a wrinkled up shirt that's wet, you throw it on the floor. When you pick it up, it's going to be dry and very crusty and just stay in a wrinkled ball. That's kind of what's going on here, only in reverse. We are encouraging it to dry as flat as possible. So the fabric here on the inside has been pulled pretty tightly, and we want to make sure that the tension is as even all around as possible. That's the hardest part. And it just kind of takes a little bit of trial and error, and you'll get there eventually. But what you want to do is just make sure that the important bits that you want flat are inside the pins. If you're going to be framing it in a bigger piece, you'd put the pins farther out to the sides. But this is going in just a little hoop, probably about, I don't know, a 5-inch hoop, so this should be fine. The hoop will take care of most of the rest of the tension, but it was the door that was really concerning me last night when we were working on this on stream. But that is just some very, very basic information on blocking. I wanted to do this live to give people a chance to ask any questions that they might have. So if anybody does have any questions, hello, how are you? If anybody does have any questions, now would be the time to go ahead and ask. If you have any concerns about this, and I'll put this right here again because I just saw a few more people come in. So if you missed a little bit at the beginning, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask, and I will answer them right now. I don't know what the delay is like, though. But this is also, like I said, a really good way to get your piece nice and flat if you're using dyed elements. So dyed fabric, dyed floss. If you're doing a project with a lot of red, this is also a good way to do it. How wet did you get the piece before pinning? I put this in the bath and then took the detachable shower head off and just sprayed it down. Got it pretty wet, actually. And then I rolled it up in the towel and let it sit in the towel for about a half hour. I didn't want to wring it out because I didn't want the dye from the fabric to get on his face, which is a big concern with dyed fabric. But you get it pretty much as wet as it needs to be. If it's something that you really need to wash, you are going to pretty much want it soaked. And that's what the towel is for here. And that will pick up the rest of the water. The towel is pretty wet. That needs to go in the dryer now. But pretty much as wet as you need it to be. Like I was saying at the beginning, this one didn't really need to be washed because it wasn't handled very much. It only took a few hours, and it was on the scroll frame the entire time. So I didn't really put any soap. If you're using soap, you're definitely going to want to get it nice and wet and get it a bit agitated. But I try, especially with dyed fabrics and dyed flosses, I try to make sure that I have to use as little soap as possible just because I don't want the dyes to run. And if you're not using dyed elements or your piece doesn't have a lot of red, then you can get your pieces nice and flat the other way by just putting it upside down so that you've got the backside showing on a nice thick towel, and you can iron it. You just have to be careful because you could wind up ironing it with your lines being a bit distorted and wibbly. In this case, I wanted to make sure that everything was nice and straight and even because this piece has so many straight lines. So that was why I decided to block it this way instead of iron it. Anything else? And these pins too. Let me go back here. I'm switching between cameras. Hope you guys don't mind. These pins were pretty cheap. I can actually check the exact prices on that right now. You just want to make sure that they are stainless steel. That is the biggest, most important point. Because they will be... They won't cause little tiny rust stains or any other weirdness. They won't corrode from being in your very wet fabric. That is important. Let me go to my past orders and see how much these things actually cost. Amazon, why are you slow? Oh, I've got stuff out for delivery. No, I'm just going to let it air dry. Using the hair dryer can cause it to dry unevenly, which could just create weird puckers where you don't want them. So these things, why can't I see the price in the app? That's so stupid. So yeah, I got 9 of these foam mats here. Here's another one so you guys can see them better. Oh, come on. They're all falling down. So I got 9 of these. They're pretty big. I want to say they are a square foot. I got 9 of these for $10. And then the pins. Oh, it's going to take forever to populate that page again. Ah. So the pins, which are, come on, many of them. The pins were $9, and there's 150 pins. They come in a big box like this, 2 different sizes. So they were $6 for those pins. They probably are. They are probably the exact same pins that you would use for dissection because they are stainless steel, which means they're not going to cause any weird problems or corrode or anything like that. Yeah, they're pretty common pins for doing a bunch of things like that. So between the mats and the pins, I spent $16, and They are mats and pins that I can use for the rest of my life. They're not going to degrade. The fabric isn't going to hurt the mat. The pins aren't really going to hurt the mat, and nothing is going to hurt pins unless you go out of your way to hurt them. They're really nice. I've been using cardboard for a long time. I just decided to get the mat to show you guys so it doesn't look super janky on screen. But yeah, you let this air dry. If you missed that part, you let this air dry. Pretty much just sit it out overnight. It's noon, so it might be dry by the time I'm ready to finish putting this video together tonight, because that's what I'm going to be doing today, is editing up a bunch of videos, and this is one of them. So hopefully that can be ready to go. The other ones that I finished this week, I don't know where they went. They've vanished on me, walked away. Okay. Well, those ones, wherever they've gone, I need to find them now, should be ready to go because they didn't have the same problem that this one did. I was just really concerned about the weird tension issues that happened in my door, and I wanted to make sure that the lines were perfectly straight, and this is a good way to do that again. Are there any other questions? I apologize for this light. It's really weird because of, it's behind me, which is not supposed to be for filming, but I need it to be for the other camera. Yeah. And if nobody else has any other questions in the chat, I will go ahead. When is your next YouTube night stream? I don't know, because it's becoming increasingly difficult for me to use YouTube right now. I had to refresh the live page about 8 times because it kept giving me 504 errors, and then Streamlabs had a really hard time connecting, probably for the same reason. So a lot of my streams lately have been on Twitch. I wanted to do this one on YouTube specifically because it's a tutorial, and it's something that can just go up now immediately for everyone else. So if anyone else in the future watching this has any questions, please ask. Put them in the comments, and I will get to them as soon as I can. I've been really bad at getting the comments lately, though, for the same 504 error reasons. I'll try to do them on my phone, though. It's difficult to get to them on my phone, but I can probably do it a little bit better than I can on the computer. I don't know what's wrong with YouTube. It's really hard. But my name on Twitch is the same, and I'm streaming on Twitch almost every night. I kind of take a little break here and there. I'm not going to be streaming today or tomorrow, but I should be back by Sunday and streaming there, and then there's another break. But yeah, I stream pretty often on Twitch. I'm just having a lot of problems with YouTube right now, which sucks. I know, because I like streaming on YouTube too. It's fun. But I'm gonna go ahead here if nobody else has any questions, and try to make sure this video goes up for everyone else in the future. So if you have any comments or questions in the future, put those down in the comments, and I will try to get to them. I don't know why YouTube is so broken right now. A lot of people have been complaining about it, but that's where I'm going to go ahead and end this for today. So thank you guys for stopping by. I hope this helps people with this aspect, because I know that this is one that's really hard to find information on. There's not a lot of resources on how to finish a piece and, you know, get it all nice and ready for framing. I don't know if my framing tutorial ever went up or if that was one that was broken. I will have to take a look and see. If it's one that didn't get filmed properly, I will try to refilm that in a couple of weeks, because that is the natural continuation from blocking your project. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will see you guys next time. Bye.